The big reveal, Texas claiming the top spot in CNBC's America's Top State for Business. Scott Cohn is there with the governor of this year's top state, Governor Greg Abbott. Scott, take it away.
Absolutely, Sarah. You know, Texas did very well. Texas always does well in this top state study, never finishing out of the top five in the 12 years that we've done this. Governor Greg Abbott, we're glad to have you with us. I've done this 3 times before with your predecessor, Governor Perry. Finally now back with you. And Governor Perry always used to tell me, back when the last time we did this in 2012, he would say that his philosophy was low tax, low regulation, don't spend all the money. Is that what you've been doing as well?
Actually, that formed the foundation to get us to where we are. Now we're doing so much more. One thing that we're working to achieve is to further diversify our economy. A lot of people don't know, but Texas has the largest medical center in the entire world. Another fact that was printed by the Dallas Morning News last year is that if you look at areas in the country with the highest concentration of workers in the financial sector, it's not New York, it's not Boston, it actually is Dallas. If you look at the technology sector, Texas not only has been #1 in the nation for exports for 15 years, Texas has been #1 in the nation for exporting technology for 5 years in a row. And so our sectors are so diverse, it leads to an even more robust economy.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we've noticed over the years, as I said, Texas always does well. But the last time it did well, oil prices were in triple digits. It hurt you last year when oil prices were low. Now oil prices are somewhat back. Is it a fact that you can't really be firing on all cylinders unless you have oil at levels like these?
Well, listen, last time oil had fallen by $100 a barrel. And so that obviously is going to impact our economy. One thing that will continue to grow our economy, I was just talking to Kaplan, who was in charge of the Fed for this area yesterday. He was talking about what it looked like for the coming years. And because of what's going to happen in oil and gas exploration and production, we're going to be off the charts in our economy. Our GDP should continue at above a 4% annual pace for a long, long time. That said, because of what we're doing to diversify our economy, I think that we will be less tethered to oil and gas in the future, and Texas will continue to be a very robust, very diversified economy.
This is an economy that also relies heavily on exports as we head into a trade war. This is one area where you've somewhat broken the president when it comes to NAFTA. Can you sustain this kind of growth if we're in a trade war, if exports ultimately are cut?
Well, and I did break on NAFTA, but also with regard to the tariffs. And because both hurt Texas. Texas is #1 in the nation for exports. Our leading export partner is Mexico, and then second is Canada. But also we're exporting a lot to Asian-based nations. We need robust trade. If the president wants to have a good economy for the United States of America, he needs to have a reasonable trade policy that will be good for Texas. What is good for Texas economy is going to be essential for the American economy.
Do you have a fallback, though, if we go into a trade war, if these tariffs continue, if things don't go well at the G7 this week?
Well, we're going to be continuing to work with our trade partners. Here's what we know, and that is, taking energy, for example. We know that our trade partners need energy from Texas. And because of Texas' prolific ability to produce oil, gas, because of our future shipments of LNG to India, to Japan, to countries across the entire globe, we know that the economy will be very robust. It's just that it will be tempered a little bit if the trade negotiations don't work out all that well. But the U.S. economy, I think, also will be tempered a little bit.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other challenges that Texas faces, and in the context of our rankings. No state that since we've done this has ever been perfect. Texas is keeping that record going. One of the areas where you did poorly was in education, 37th ranked in our study. A lot of that had to do with low high school test scores. You're going to come into a legislative session next year. There's already talk about 10% budget cuts, or at least being prepared for that. What's the situation with education, and why can't Texas improve in that area?
Well, actually, we have been improving. This past year, we had the highest high school graduation rate ever in the state of Texas. For each of my 4 years as governor, Our high school graduation rates have improved. Texas ranks number 5th in the nation right now for high school graduation rates. Going into the session, we have a primary goal, and that is to not just pay teachers more, but to use it in a way that's very strategic so that we will get a great return on our investment. I don't think we're going to be having 10% cuts in our budget because the revenue that we're producing is so prolific. We're going to find ways that we can use the bounty of the money that we are making to invest strategically to improve education, to improve infrastructure, to improve every aspect of the state of Texas.
Another area that is always a sore spot, at least the way that we rank things, is quality of life, where you came in 31st. And it's not that Texas isn't a marvelous place. I always love coming here. But let's talk about a couple of the areas there, one of which is health care, still the highest percentage of uninsured in the nation. Do you see that as a problem?
Well, let me give you some new information, and that is that this past year, Texas ranked number 2 in the nation with regard to adding children in health care insurance. In the state of Texas, those who are not insured have access to health care through the methodologies that we provide to them. Another thing about Texas and healthcare, with our strong streak of independence, there was a study in the Wall Street Journal last year showing that Texans were purposefully choosing not to opt into the Obamacare, but rather pay the penalty instead.
Well, let me also ask you about what we look at as inclusiveness. And this is something also, you're running for re-election, your Democratic opponent Lupe Valdez has touched on this, that the Texas brand is not welcoming anymore. You have things like what she calls the Show Me Your Papers law. I know you're banning sanctuary measures at the local level, but also the bathroom came up last session, is supposedly going to come up again this session. Is Texas not welcoming enough? If a company wants to come to a state where it's going to have access to the widest possible workforce, are workers going to want to come here with those kinds of things?
That concern is a false political narrative that comes out during times of campaigns. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is not what some politician running for office says. The proof is the fact that Texas is the #1 state in the United States for in-migration from other states. People are voting with their feet. People are coming to the state of Texas more than any other state, and that's people and companies. I got to tell you, from the CEOs I talk to on a weekly basis, they're coming here right and left. They feel very inclusive here. Every CEO I talk to says they feel Texas is warmer, more embracing, more inclusive than any other state they've been in.
Greg Abbott, the 48th governor of the state of Texas. Glad we were finally able to do this. Congratulations on being America's top state for business. A reminder that you can see where your state ranks at topstates.cnbc.